Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and, well, I shouldn't say once again, because it's been quite a while since my last video, a while since my last stream, which this is a live stream, and I'm returning to after a move, which basically knocked me out of commission for about 2 weeks. This is going to be a video stream of Order of Battle Kriegsmarine, which is going to be the first look that I've taken at that DLC for the Order of Battle game. Order of Battle Kriegsmarine puts you in the Atlantic campaign to strangle the British Empire from its overseas commerce, and basically takes the Order of Battle system, which is kind of like Panzer Corps in the Pacific, to the European theater, and gives it a basically strictly naval theme, which I'll be interested to see how that plays. But we'll go ahead and get started and see. Yes, Spike, it is a live stream. That was said more for the benefit of those who will be watching once it's a video on demand. Okay, so fleet resurfaced. We'll see how this all starts. After shedding the limitations imposed by the treaties following its defeat in 1918, Germany has rebuilt a powerful navy. The Kriegsmarine has gained combat experience in the Spanish Civil War, but now faces its first true challenge, supporting the new war against Poland and the Western Allies. Okay, so it looks like Kriegsmarine is going to put you in the shoes of the German Navy rather than the British. I wasn't sure if this was a British Navy, you know, try and survive the Battle of the Atlantic, or a German Navy try and destroy the British in the Battle of the Atlantic. Obviously, it's going to be a German task, and it's going to be taking us to Poland first, which is pretty interesting because generally you don't think too much of the German Navy's role in the Polish campaign. This is, I'm guessing, more of a tutorial. The Germans had a pocket battleship, a remnants of the World War I Navy that bombarded a Polish fort, and actually I think there was a Polish sort of nationalist movie that was made of it recently, of the Polish garrison's resistance to the German bombardment against all odds. But let's go ahead and jump in and see what this first scenario looks like. The Hochsee Flotilla is always my favorite German flotilla. Alright, mission briefing awaits. Start the briefing. In support of the invasion of Poland, the Kriegsmarine will operate in the Baltic Sea and make its way into Danzig Bay. Meanwhile, the ground troops will be tasked to capture key objectives in the region. As the free city of Danzig, German forces are already engaged with Polish troops, offering stiff resistance. In preparation for these attacks, however, the old battleship Schleswig-Holstein was sent to Danzig a month ago. It will now provide fire. The Luftwaffe will also take part in the operation. A squadron of Ju-87 dive bombers is en route and will arrive shortly. These will certainly provide useful as stopping any Polish plans from mining the entrance to the bay. As our fleet approaches, the enemy may also attempt to evacuate their most valuable naval assets. We must pursue and intercept any of these warships and merchant vessels before they can escape the area. Okay. Alright, so our primary objective is to capture all victory points. Our secondary objectives are to sink 3 destroyers, prevent mine lane operations, destroy a few D-bills, and destroy all merchant ships. So this is very Star Wars Empire type music, but just a refresher, this game is very similar to Panzer Corps in that you've got a turn-based strategy game. There are hexes. Units are generally somewhat abstracted. Although at least in the naval assets, they tend to model a one-to-one relationship. Ground units, it's not really clear, you know, is that a battalion, is it a brigade, is it a division? Not really sure there, but at least for the naval units tend to model a one-to-one relationship. So you can see here the Germans have the Schleswig-Holstein and Danzig, which allows us to bombard Polish forces in the Danzig harbor. This is an old World War I believe it was a Deutschland-class pre-battleship. There were 4 or 5 made. One of them was actually sunk at the Battle of Jutland. They were obsolete by the time World War I broke out in 1914. They only mounted 2 main heavy turrets with a whole bunch of secondaries, but they were commissioned shortly before, or actually after, the HMS Dreadnought made all of these sort of 2-turreted battleships obsolete, and the modern sort of 2 forward, 1 back, or 2 forward, 2 back turret setup of the dreadnoughts became common. With that being said, the Germans were allowed to keep one after the Treaty of Versailles because it was obviously not a threat to the British Navy. Okay, with that being said, let's start looking at deploying our forces here. So you can see here we start with 2 destroyers and a support ship. The support ship provides supplies and things like that. Now our mission is going to be making sure that the Polish don't mine these corridors, so we got to get down to here. And we have 9 naval units we can call in. We've got 234, I don't know if that's prestige or requisition points that we can use to purchase more equipment. So go ahead into the purchase category. You can see here we can purchase tactical bombers, which these are a very different unit setup than we're used to seeing. These are all naval-oriented German bombers, which is not something we're used to seeing in this game, given that most of the Panzer Corps games shy away from the maritime aspect of the game. We've also got destroyers we can purchase. We've got a light cruiser we can purchase. We don't have enough money to buy a Scharnhorst battleship, but I don't really see the utility in buying a Scharnhorst battleship right now. So we've got 235 points. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and purchase a recon aircraft first of all, because that will allow us to figure out, where are these Polish troops. We've got 3 air units. The amount of units you can actually purchase and deploy are represented down here on the bottom right of the map. The 0 with the helmet next to it means we can deploy 0 land units. 9 next to the anchor means we can deploy up to 9 naval units or naval points. And 3 next to the air units mean we can deploy up to 3 air units. And again, these are represented by the number here. So for example, a German tactical bomber or torpedo bomber here, it's got the number 3 next to it. That would take up 3 air points, so it would use this entire capacity. Destroyers use 3 naval points, so we've got 9 here. We could buy 3 destroyers. Cruisers use 4 naval points. That would use up a substantial portion of our naval component. And battleships, or at least this battleship, uses up 5 naval components. Submarines only use 2. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get purchasing the things we can purchase. I'm actually going to go with let's go with a bomber, actually, for our air unit, because I can use it as a recon aircraft, but it also will double as an attack aircraft. So I'm going to go ahead and use 60 of my points on the Heinkel HE-59B. Go ahead and deploy that here at the edge of the map. We have no air bases on map, but we do have these sort of map edge hexes where basically things can come on and go off the map at this point. So we'll use up our air units there, and we'll use up some of our requisition points there. In addition to that, let's go ahead and purchase some... I don't want to switch to torpedoes. We'll keep it with bombs. Bombs tend to be more effective against smaller ships like destroyers, I think. That's my perception of how Order of Battle Pacific played out. But we'll see here. I'm going to go ahead and purchase a destroyer and deploy it. And I think I'll purchase a second destroyer. No. Do we want a cruiser instead? We can go with a Deutschland. We've got enough money for that. We don't have enough money for a Hipper, which is a heavy cruiser. Deutschland is also marked as a heavy cruiser. So this would actually be a pocket battleship. The Deutschland class were the German pocket battleships. We'll go ahead with one of those. They were fast, heavily armed with 11-inch guns, but only 2 main turrets, only 6 main guns. They were more powerful than heavy cruisers, but less powerful than battleships, and very thinly armored. Okay, so we don't control any of these ground units, I don't think. We can't raise ground units anyway, so that will end the deployment phase. We've got 2 naval points left, but we have no money to use for it, so we'll go ahead and end the turn, or end the deployment phase. And you can see here we get 4 income per turn for Germany, and we get 10 income per turn for the Kriegsmarine. Hide and seek. Intelligence reports indicate that Polish Navy has several submarines operating in the area. Great. Alright, so first thing here, we detect an enemy destroyer, which I'm surprised our plane can't really fly that far. So we'll go ahead and engage the enemy destroyers first. And we'll actually engage the enemy destroyers first with our cruiser from a distance, because we range these Polish destroyers. You can see here we just took out 2 of their firepower. Again, interesting that our aircraft can only cover a few hexes. Our destroyers... Do we want to move in and launch a torpedo attack against the enemy? We can, but it doesn't really have much of a chance of success, so we won't do that. They didn't really have ultra-modern destroyers. Well, compared to the Polish in a way, but I guess the Polish destroyers were relatively new. Poland as a nation was only about 20 years old at the time of the outbreak of World War II, so it would make sense for the Polish destroyers to do pretty well for themselves. The Deutschland? No, I don't think the Deutschland was in the South Atlantic at the time. The Graf Spee was, but I'm not sure about the Deutschland. But apparently we also do control some ground units here, so I guess just a question of, first let's take a look at the Schleswig-Holstein, let's see what we want to bombard. I'm not sure what this whole main gun, secondary gun piece is. I guess we might as well bombard the pillbox. That would kind of guarding the approach to the city of Danzig, so that'll make it easier for our infantry. We'll use our primary gun here to see if it's any better. As again, I said, I'm not really sure what the difference is, but you can see here we suppress that that concrete bunker, and we'll use some infantry. Well, do we want to use them to assault it? I'm not sure. It didn't really seem to do anything. We use our other infantry to attack down here in the south. And yeah, let's bring these guys over to help. So we took that southern Polish town, and now we've got to go up and break through the concrete pillboxes next turn. But we've just taken the first Polish objective. I'm not... Okay, so there's one more objective here in the northeast called Hell, and then we've also got to go ahead and take Gdansk. But with the first turn down, I know we have some fuel dumps I'm looking for. I'm not quite sure... Not sure where they are. I don't see any, but I guess that would make it too easy if we knew where they were at the start. So I'm going to try and target all those secondary objectives, but we'll see. And according to one of you in the stream here, the Deutschland was near Greenland in September of 1939. So, you know, it shouldn't be here, but it is for the game, so we'll see. Also, I just noticed that the main gun, when you use it, you can only use those every couple of turns. There's a cooldown for the guns. Doesn't make a lot of sense on heavy guns that they'd have a cooldown effect, but it's kind of like torpedoes where destroyers, they fire a torpedo and then they can't touch it for 3 more turns. But you can see here the Polish destroyers are launching an attack on our naval units here. They're heavily outnumbered, but you know, they may try and escape off the map if they can, and I'm not sure. I know historically several Polish destroyers did escape and participate in the war with the British Navy. But you can see here we've already started taking objectives. We took the first primary. We haven't destroyed any destroyers or fuel dumps or anything like that, but I am going to try and go for as many secondary guns as possible. Also, by the way, you guys may have noticed that the audio for the gameplay is cut out here. That's because I had some audio issues during this live stream, but I didn't want to throw out the stream altogether, so I cut out the issues and I'm re-recording over them, but the gameplay will come back in a few moments. With that being said, we've gone ahead and we've sunk our first enemy ship. It does seem to me that our capital ships are a little bit underpowered. I also think it's interesting that our support ships have guns. You know, I suppose that's realistic, but I don't know how effective they would be. Granted, they haven't really done anything for me thus far anyway, so, you know, be it what it may. One thing I've noticed with the game so far is if you move a ship and then try and fire at the same turn, you have a much less effective gun platform, which I'm not sure if that's supposed to represent time lost maneuvering or if it's supposed to represent the fact that, you know, you're moving quickly and it makes you less of a stable gun platform. But in either way, I think there's some pros to that modeling of the combat. You can see here our Schleswig-Holstein isn't really doing much against this fort, but we're going to go ahead and move our infantry back to try and take the remainder of Danzig, and then we'll go ahead and move our other infantry unit forward. Because it's a peninsula, we can only attack with 1 unit at a time. We're going to go ahead and split our forces and move some north towards Sopot and start driving toward Danzig as well. You can see here the Polish troops are giving some strong resistance to us, but we're doing okay. We've got a little bit of money we could use, but we don't really have any spare resources, and we don't have enough money, I guess, at this point. But yeah, I gotta say this is a really interesting first scenario for Order of Battle. I kind of just assumed that Kriegsmarine was going to be constant convoy actions, and I don't think the Panzer Corps or Order of Battle or Panzer General system really works that well for naval. But it'll be really interesting to see, because I think a lot of times with these kind of games, it's like, 2 points, 2 points, 2 points. It turns naval combat really into more of a grind than I think it traditionally is. You know, usually you see some tremendous explosion and a ship goes up once, all at once, rather than this gradual poking holes in it till it gets overwhelmed. But anyway, we'll continue to rely on our Schleswig-Holstein here to help Danzig out, and continue to try and reduce that fortification. It's down to 3, so we're making some progress there. To a commenter in the chat, 11-inch guns were, the Schleswig-Holstein had 11-inch guns, and that was weaker than the British had before World War I, but it wasn't that big of a difference. So the Schleswig-Holstein had 11-inch guns. Most German battleships had either 9.4s or a couple of 11-inch guns in their pre-dreadnought classes of battleships, so everything before 1905. The Germans went with the 9.4s because they thought they'd have rapid rate of fire, which would overwhelm their opposition, whereas the British went with the heavier shell because it would penetrate more armor. Eventually, with the lessons of the Russo-Japanese War and other more rapid-firing heavy guns, the Germans started adopting 11-inch guns with the, I think it was the Wittelsbach or class, or no, my bad, it was the Brauschenweg class, and then the Deutschland class had 11-inch guns, and then the first German class of dreadnought battleships as well, the Nassau class, used 11-inch guns. The Germans upgraded their ships to 12-inch guns with the second class of dreadnoughts, and they didn't go any larger with the 12-inch guns until the Bayern class late in World War I, where they had their first 15-inch guns. So the Germans pretty much always had 11 or 12-inch guns in World War I. The British tended to have 12-inch guns up until right around 1910 with their Orion-class battleships. They had 3 or 4 classes of battleships through to the Iron Duke that had 13.5-inch guns, while the Germans were building 12-inchers up through that period. It wasn't until the Queen Elizabeth class that the British adopted the 15-inch gun, and that also influenced the Germans into developing the Bayern class with its own 15-inch guns. And that German Bayern class actually inspired the Bismarck, years later. With that being said, despite the fact that the Germans tended to have smaller shells, they actually had higher muzzle velocities, so they tended to have a roughly equivalent penetration characteristics. On the flip side, the British shells being larger, if both shells penetrated the enemy armor, the British would theoretically do more damage. With that being said, the British had issues with their explosives in their shells. They also had issues with their shells exploding or breaking up on impact, which they didn't learn until the war started. So both of those were factors in the British performing less well than they otherwise should have, given they heavily outgunned in terms of firepower and weight of shells. They heavily outnumbered or outgunned the Germans through much of World War I, but there really wasn't a decisive difference there in the way things performed, the smaller shell size not being a substantial factor for the Germans. So I think we did destroy those 3 Polish destroyers, right? What the heck is the briefing option? Change the whole menu. I don't really want to see that. I want to see the briefing. Where is the... I guess I'll see it between turns. Alright, let's work on reducing the remaining Polish forces. These guys need to reinforce. Got enough money to completely reinforce. Okay, or get up to 8, not completely, but let's get enough. Alright, so we'll go ahead and end that turn. Yeah, the game has submarines, so I guess I'm not sure what the actual Battle of the Atlantic will look like, and it'll be interesting to see if Kriegsmarine is more just, you know, a set of sort of the actual major naval engagements. You know, you look at the Bismarck and fighting off the British there, and you look at the Norwegian campaign, or if it'll be something more, but we'll see. Alright, so those guys are rested and refit. The Navy will keep scouting forward. Is there an escape point for the Polish this way? Yeah, there is. See ya, Diptard. Another Polish destroyer? Yes, we have sunk 3 Polish destroyers, so we've gotten that secondary objective. It's a merchant ship. Alright, well, I'm not too worried about you. There's supposed to be 5 of you out there, but we'll work on destroying you slowly. Oh, Polish submarine. Great. Oh, and I forgot to... Alright, so he's not quite dead. We'll move the Deutschland down here to finish off that merchant ship. And down it goes. Don't have to worry about that Polish submarine. We'll see what it does. Using my destroyer over here, hopefully to cut off the escape of any Polish merchants. Some of them may have already escaped, but we'll see. Alright, use the heavy guns. Back to regulars. You guys need reinforcements. These guys just kind of need a rest. Alright, so those guys need to rest for a turn before they start advancing. I don't know how I'm going to take that other city, though. Quick enough, because I've got to advance all the way around the... Ah! Sub-launched torpedoes against us, and we're under artillery fire. Great. Alright, some more Polish ships coming out to play. I'm guessing the majority of these are those merchant ships that are referenced. Our Luftwaffe air support has arrived. There are some anti-air guns here in the way, though. We're working on taking that second victory point here. Yeah, the capital ships are a little bit too weak in this game, if you ask me. They shouldn't be... Ooh, fuel depot. Capital ships shouldn't be so insignificant in the game. It just seems like, oh, they've got, they'll last a little bit longer, they're a little bit more durable. But that's about it. It should be a little bit more impactful in my view. Alright, so another merchant ship, also a Polish gunboat, making its way out to sea. And then we'll move this destroyer south. I think everybody else has moved. These guys haven't, but I think I'm gonna wait. Advance. Let's advance. Or not. Alright, so even a heavily disrupted German force can fight reasonably well against these Polish infantry, so that's good to know. Everybody else moved? No, we've still got the Stukas, but there's some anti-aircraft batteries over there, so let's go take out some more fuel depots, because that's another secondary objective, is to destroy 4 of those. What do these gunboats do? Are they just guns, or do they have torpedoes also? Are they like mini destroyers? More Polish artillery. They're probably going to launch a ground attack. We're going to take some heavy losses because we're so disrupted. And we'll at least do a little bit of damage to them. Okay. Polish a heavy ship? I'm not aware of a heavy Polish ship. All right, some more German forces are arriving on the field, which is definitely beneficial. Switching my bombardment of our ship away from this city. There's only 1 HP left, so they should be dead next turn. Oh, I pull these guys back a bit. Nope, now that I've attacked, they're done. All right. All right, everybody, that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. I'm going to go ahead and cut the Battle of Danzig off into 2 parts. So the first part was kind of my first impressions, my first look at Order of Battle Kriegsmarine, the new expansion or new DLC for the Order of Battle series, which puts you in control of German naval forces throughout World War II as you attempt to win the naval campaign. Really interesting so far. I think Danzig is an interestingly crafted scenario, but we'll see how things end up in the next video. This is my first video back in quite a while. It's been several weeks since I made my last one. Hope you guys enjoyed it being back. Sorry about the audio snafu. I know there was a little bit of an issue where it was really loud at the start. I corrected, but you heard no gameplay audio, and then we went back to maybe a little bit of a quieter experience. Nonetheless, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope the editing was quality enough to allow you to enjoy it, and until next time, guys, I'm back, and thanks again for tuning in. This is the Historical Gamers saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.